The main girl was originally a poor girl, coming from a really poor family. To help her family out and pay for her little brother's school fees, she transformed herself into a sexy car model, doing hot dances. At this car show event, if they could just get customers to sign an order right there on the spot, they'd get a $30,000 bonus. To get money for her brother's tuition, Pla was really trying hard to catch the eye of the big spenders. With the manager's guidance, she found her potential customer, a handsome guy wearing a red suit. At this time, she had no idea that this theme would be the Prince Charming in her life. The guy in the red suit saw Pla, and was also mesmerized by her innocent beauty and charm. Theme was quickly and deeply attracted to her, but reason told him that she was just like those women who use their looks to get what they want, no matter what it takes. He secretly swore to himself that he would never be seduced by beauty like his father was. What Theme didn't expect was for Pla to walk right up to him to show her good intentions. She not only looked at him with affectionate eyes, constantly shooting sparks, but also wiggled and flirted with him right in front of him. At this moment, Theme's male body was being very honest, also indulging in her seductive provocation. From this moment on, the wheel of fate started turning. In the not-so-distant future, they would become a couple deeply in love. But then, Theme saw Pla give a friendly wink to his enemy. He misunderstood her as being a flirtatious woman, willing to do anything for money. He started looking at her with different eyes, his expression unhappy. However, he still agreed to get in the car with her to experience the features of the new car. At this time, a middle-aged man came to the hall. This man was Theme's father. He saw that Pla's face looked a lot like someone he used to know. He immediately felt a special connection to this girl. He also quickly realized that the girl was selling the car to his son. Next, Pla seriously introduced the new features of the car. Theme deliberately tried to stump her, asking her a tricky question. Unexpectedly, Pla was able to answer very professionally, which made him see her in a new light. To test whether Pla was trying to seduce men or really just working hard, Theme continued to deliberately test her, asking if he ordered the car today, would she give herself to him? Pla pretended to be ambiguous, saying that she could take care of him for life. Theme thought she had fallen into his trap, but immediately after, she continued to try to sell him insurance. It turned out that this was what she meant by taking care of him for life. The test failed. Theme was very embarrassed and quickly ran out of the car. When it came time for customers to order cars, Pla thought that she had offended the rich young master, and her bonus was definitely gone. But what surprised her was that Theme unexpectedly ordered a car right there at the presentation. Theme's father was also quite surprised by his son's actions. He thought it was all thanks to that girl. Theme's assistant also asked his boss why he changed his usual way of doing things today, ordering the car right on the spot. It turned out that Theme's two tests had convinced him that Pla was really just working hard, and not the kind of woman who would do anything for money. But then, he overheard a conversation that changed his view of her. It turned out that the man who winked at Pla, Wicket, had someone relay a message to the manager, saying that he was very interested in Pla, and asking the manager to tell Pla to provide extra services. The manager, for the sake of the commission, agreed to try to persuade her. Theme immediately thought that he had misjudged her, that Pla was still just a gold digger. Wicket came to mock Theme, saying that he was also seduced by beauty and ordered the car, mocking him for forgetting his own words. It turned out that Wicket and he had grown up together. That day, they went home together, only to find his father and mother arguing, because his father had gotten a woman outside pregnant. At that time, Theme had vowed that he would never become like his father, getting involved with that kind of unprincipled woman. However, Theme didn't know that Pla had firmly rejected the manager's request. She only wanted to use her efforts and her own hands to create wealth. At this time, Theme's father also came to praise his son for changing, and asked him where the car model girl from earlier was. Theme angrily scolded Pla, saying that just sitting with her made him feel disgusted. He said she wanted to rely on rich men to take shortcuts. At this moment, Pla happened to be passing by and heard his scolding. With her fiery temper, she immediately stepped forward to object and reminded him that for people like her, even if he brought all the money in the world, he would never be able to touch her. Pla taught Theme a lesson he wouldn't forget. Theme's father quickly played peacemaker, saying that perhaps they just misunderstood each other. But this couldn't change her bad impression of Theme. They weren't happy talking to each other, because they both had prejudices and misunderstandings about each other. After Pla left, Theme's father also advised his son not to lump all women together, because there were different kinds of women. Fime didn't want to change his point of view and secretly wished that he would never see that terrible woman again. But soon after, he received a phone call saying that his half-brother had been hospitalized. They investigated and found that the person who harmed his brother was a university student, and also Pla's brother. He looked at his brother's phone and saw a hidden camera video, and realized that his brother was at fault first. At the same time, Pla was worried about her brother's tuition, and also received a message that her brother was being detained. It turned out that Fime's brother had secretly filmed women going to the bathroom in a bar. Pla's brother, seeing the injustice, stood up to help. The two went from arguing to a physical conflict. Pla's brother accidentally seriously injured the wealthy young master. With no other choice, Pla had to go find her sister to borrow money. She needed money to bail her brother out. Her sister refused to lend her money. Fortunately, her kind brother-in-law lent Pla some money. However, even after paying the money, Pla still couldn't bail out her brother, simply because the victim's mother insisted on getting justice for her son. The police said that the victim was the youngest son of a very powerful large corporation. In despair, Pla had no choice but to return home helplessly, only to find her grandmother planning to go apologize and beg the victim, so that her frail grandmother wouldn't have to suffer. Pla gritted her teeth and went to find Fime to talk. She begged them to show compassion and bail out her brother. But Fime still remembered the humiliation that Pla had caused him before. To force Pla to reveal her true colors as a money grubber willing to do anything, Fime deliberately made things difficult for Pla and offered that she sleep with him. Saddened, Pla went to visit her brother. At this time, she didn't know what else to do, only blaming her brother for being so clueless and always causing her trouble. After talking for a while, Pla realized that it wasn't entirely her brother's fault. She just needed to find evidence that the rich young master had been secretly filming women, so they could turn the situation around. So Pla tried hard to find evidence. She and her best friend reviewed the video in the bar, but only saw her brother beating up the young master. As she left the bar, she received a text message with Fime's room number, which made Pla's already troubled head even more of a headache. What could she do to save her brother? That night, Pla wore a sexy black dress to the meeting. This outfit made Fime find her very attractive, but he was also glad that he hadn't misjudged her. This Pla was indeed a gold digger. As Fime was feeling smug, he didn't expect Pla to turn the tables. She released a video of Fime's brother secretly filming women, proving that the real culprit was his brother. It turned out that Pla had found the dash cam in the car outside the bar, which happened to capture evidence of Fime's brother secretly filming women. She demanded that Fime drop the charges against her brother, and also demanded that he go out onto the balcony. Fearing that the leaked video would affect the company's reputation, Fime had no choice but to follow Pla's instructions. Unexpectedly, Pla also demanded that he take off all his clothes, and finally locked the door, making Fime, the chairman of a large company, extremely embarrassed. Even worse, someone saw his intimate scene. Luckily, Fime's assistant saw this scene and rushed to the rescue. Fime said gloomily that he had originally intended to tease Pla, but unexpectedly, he was teased by her instead. That night, Pla got her brother out of jail. The next day, Fime also received the video evidence from Pla. The two agreed that they would never see each other again. At this time, Fime's stepmother also came to question him, asking why he released the person who harmed her son. Fime immediately showed the video to his stepmother. After watching the video, the stepmother was very panicked, worried that her husband would discover the video, and rushed to the hospital to lecture her son. The son said that his father didn't care about him, and said that he felt very guilty towards his brother, because his brother's mother had left home because of his birth. But everyone didn't know that Fime's father had clearly investigated everything about his two sons. He greatly admired Pla for daring to use this trick to deal with his eldest son. Unexpectedly, Fime's private photos were secretly taken and posted online. News of this intimate photo also reached Fime's father. Fime's father knew that Pla had a way to deal with his son, so he sent someone to arrange a meeting with Pla to talk. First, he sincerely apologized for the reckless behavior of his two sons. Pla said that her brother was also at fault. After talking for a while, Pla learned that Fime's father was inviting her to work at the company, in the position of department director. On the one hand, Pla felt inferior because she didn't have a degree and wasn't qualified to work at their company, so she immediately refused. At this time, the two didn't know that someone had secretly taken a photo of them together. It turned out that Fime's father's wife was worried that he was having an affair, so she hired a detective to follow him. If any woman met him, she would immediately receive a photo. At this time, the stepmother saw that the woman in the photo was so young and beautiful, and was extremely surprised. The detective in charge of the investigation told the stepmother that her name was Pla, from a poor background, doing many part-time jobs. She only had one meal with Feme's father, and Feme's father wanted to recruit her into the company. The stepmother immediately scolded Pla as a money grubber. Feme happened to pass by, and overheard their conversation. After seeing the group photo of his father and Pla, he misunderstood that Pla was seducing his father, that she wanted to rely on beauty to get a job, not knowing that Pla had long ago refused his father. When her best friend learned that Pla had such a good job opportunity, she strongly advised Pla to give it a try. But because Pla didn't want to be Feme's subordinate, nor did she want to see him again, she still chose to refuse. However, what happened next made her change her mind. The mother-in-law of Pla's sister found out that her daughter had borrowed money from her son, and immediately showed her displeasure towards her daughter, scolding her for not earning enough money, and still having to support her parents' family. She even incited her son to leave her. Worried that her mother-in-law would gossip, her sister called Pla and lied that she had something urgent, asking her to entertain a boss. That way, her debt would no longer need to be paid. Pla, who considered herself high-minded, refused. She questioned her sister how she could treat her like this, wanting to sell herself to pay off debts. Her sister said that she was acting out of kindness, wanting to help her find a good job to earn money to pay off debts. Her sister had to worry about her husband's family. She didn't want them to say that she was sucking the blood of her husband's family to support her parents' family. Angrily, Pla said that she would try to think of a way. In a fit of anger, her sister gave her a week to pay off the debt. Without a job, she couldn't possibly earn such a large sum of money in a short period, so she could only take on more part-time jobs. In the evening, she returned to her grandmother's plant shop to live stream. Although she tried her best to please customers and used dancing to attract viewers, she still didn't sell much and was maliciously ridiculed by customers. In despair, she had to end the live stream early and burst into tears in her grandmother's arms. Seeing that she couldn't complete the task of paying off the debt within a week, and being driven into a corner, Pla finally had to compromise. For the money, she decided to work at Feme's company. The next day, Pla wore a business suit to the company's front desk. This scene was seen by Feme and his lawyer. Feme secretly resolved not to let this woman achieve her goal, so he wanted to personally interview Pla, deciding to eliminate her from the preliminary round. But he didn't know that his father was secretly confronting him. Feme even personally observed Pla's interview. Pla was a little surprised but still patiently and politely answered the interviewer's questions. Except for the qualifications not meeting the requirements, other aspects made the interviewer very satisfied. In addition, Feme's father had changed the recruitment conditions for this position, only requiring work ability and not requiring qualifications. If there were no surprises, Pla could be hired for this job. But Feme deliberately made things difficult for Pla during the interview, even insulting her for having done extra services. Provoked, Pla had a heated argument with Feme right in front of the interviewer. This also caused Pla to lose her job opportunity. After Pla left the company in disappointment, Feme's stepmother came to the company, saying she wanted to find the woman that Feme's father had introduced. Feme immediately satirized his stepmother, saying that the woman just now was like her in the past, shamelessly seducing men to get a job. It turned out that Feme's stepmother also relied on her relationship with his father to get a job at the company in the past. But later, she had an affair with his father and had a child. His mother knew about the affair and couldn't accept her husband's betrayal, so she angrily left, disregarding her young son. Feme was extremely happy that he had ruined Pla's job search. In the evening, he went to a bar to drink and celebrate, and accidentally met Pla having an ambiguous relationship with his enemy Wicket. This again made Feme misunderstand that Pla couldn't find a job, so she came to the bar to do extra services to earn money. In addition, his enemy Wicket praised Pla's service as very good, and enthusiastically invited Feme to his room to enjoy. This made Feme immediately believe it was true. Deceived Feme, without verifying, scolded Pla again. Being scolded harshly, Pla was very aggrieved. Although she also strongly resisted, the two had an argument, and the misunderstanding between them became even deeper. Feme didn't know that Pla came to the bar only to work. It turned out that she had received a job as a tour guide for foreign tourists. After a day of fun, she went with her customers to the bar. Unexpectedly, This customer was a partner of her brother-in-law. When she went to the bathroom, she met Wicket. Lusting after Pla's beauty, he deliberately fell down. Pla kindly helped him up. Wicket pretended to have severe stomach pain. Pla again kindly took him back to his room. This scene was seen by Theme, which led to the misunderstanding. Although Wicket invited Pla to stay, Pla politely refused and said that she had to go meet a friend. Later, her brother-in-law took Pla home. This scene was again seen by Theme. Theme knew that her brother-in-law was rich, so he misunderstood that he was also one of Pla's customers. He told his subordinates to notify the bar that no one should hire her. People like that would only damage the company's reputation if they came to work. The next day, Theme finally saw the cafe manager had chosen someone else. He was smug about his wise decision. However, soon after, Theme's mood dropped to rock bottom because his lawyer, his subordinate, told him that although Pla didn't get the job as a cafe manager, she had successfully gotten a job as the secretary of his father, the chairman of the board. It turned out that Pla, in order to earn money for her brother's tuition, finally agreed to be Theme's father's secretary. This position only needed Theme's father's approval. Knowing this, Theme immediately went to question his father. How could he let this kind of morally degenerate woman be the face of the company? His father said that Theme had no right to interfere. The two argued back and forth, bringing up old matters. Theme blamed his father for using a money-grubbing secretary in the past, allowing that evil woman to take the opportunity to climb up, leading to his mother leaving. In the end, the two had another argument. On the other hand, the stepmother learned that her husband had hired a young female secretary, and the fire of anger in her heart erupted. She was very worried that Pla would steal her husband. Knowing his stepmother's personality well, Theme came up with a plan. He decided to use his stepmother to deal with Pla. So, he angrily said to Pla that once she had chosen this path for herself, her life from now on would not have a single day of peace. Pla listened in confusion. She only wanted to work hard and earn money to support her family. She didn't understand what the meaning of those words was. Theme, out of anger, went on a yacht trip to relieve his stress. Years ago, his stepmother brought his half-brother to his house, cruelly forcing his mother to leave, causing him to no longer enjoy maternal love from then on. The seeds of hatred sprouted again in his heart. When Theme got off the boat to prepare to return, he met an old woman who had fallen. Kind-hearted, Theme immediately ran to help the old woman up and helped her fix the broken wheels. The old woman saw that Theme was sad and advised him to let go of the pain of the past and look forward optimistically and positively. The two talked very well. The old woman also invited Theme to visit her plant shop. At this time, Theme didn't know that this old woman was Pla's grandmother. After being persuaded by the old woman, Theme regained his spirit and returned to the company to work. Knowing that the company was currently facing a difficult reception task, to make things difficult for Pla, Theme suggested that Pla be in charge. One was to prove her workability, and two was that Theme had his own intentions. He was sure that his stepmother would know about this and make things difficult and target Pla, but Theme was still worried that his stepmother would go too far and told his subordinates to protect Pla's family. He really wanted to know how she would win if Pla and his stepmother fought fiercely. Things went as he predicted. Soon after, Pla and his stepmother officially declared war. It turned out that although Pla had successfully become the secretary of the chairman of the board, she was worried that Theme would find ways to make things difficult for her at any time. She suspected that this job was unstable, so she didn't quit her part-time job at the convenience store. Her brother saw his sister working so hard for the family and was filled with guilt. But at the same time, he also felt helpless in the face of his sister's shamelessness. It turned out that his sister was scolded by her husband, who said that she shouldn't force her sister to pay off debts. The couple had an argument because of this. His sister thought that her sister had snitched to her husband, wanting to destroy their marital relationship, and even suspected that her sister was seducing her husband. She went to her grandmother's house to cry. Her grandmother angrily slapped her sister hard. Her grandmother was still bothered by this matter when she was disturbed by people from Theme's stepmother. When they were smashing the plant shop, Theme arrived in time to help. The stepmother saw Theme from afar and quickly called to tell the thugs to stop. Although the thugs ran away very quickly, Theme still clearly saw his stepmother's car. He immediately understood that this was done by his stepmother. Suddenly, her grandmother felt uncomfortable and fainted. At this time, Pla also ran back. It was at this time that Theme knew that this old woman was Pla's grandmother. Pla also misunderstood that Theme was taking revenge on her. Later, they took her grandmother to the hospital together. The doctor said that her grandmother had only fainted due to overwork, but they discovered that there was a problem with her body and needed to stay for a thorough examination. Pla suddenly had a bad premonition and sadly shed tears. Fime, seeing this scene from afar, also felt a little sad. Afterward, he also went to the ward to visit her grandmother. After listening to her grandmother's explanation, Pla understood that her grandmother and Fime had known each other for a long time. And it wasn't Fime who hired someone to harm her grandmother. But Pla said that her friend, who was a police officer, had sent someone to investigate, but it seemed that the police couldn't find anything. Then, Fime said that he knew who had harmed her grandmother, but he deliberately kept it secret. After being pressed by Pla, Fime finally told Pla that it was done by his stepmother, because his stepmother was a woman with a very strong jealousy, and she always had hostility towards anyone who approached his father. So Fime suggested that Pla come to work by his side. He offered to pay her twice the salary that his father paid. But for Pla, money was important, but more important than anything was how to earn the money. In the end, Pla still refused Fime's good intentions, but this action made Fime think that Pla valued his father's money more. Next, Pla went to pay the hospital fees for her grandmother. After paying the fees, Pla discovered that she couldn't pay off her debt on time. Suddenly, a middle-aged woman passing by was about to faint, and Pla quickly ran to help her. At this time, Pla had no idea that this woman was Fime's birth mother. A man appeared and helped Fime's mother to see a doctor. As they walked away, the chairman's assistant carried a basket of flowers to visit Ms. Pla's grandmother. Seeing the back of Fime's mother, he thought it was Fime's mother, but then he thought he was mistaken, and patiently talked to Pla, and went with her to visit her grandmother. He said that he was representing the chairman to visit and express his concern, and also suggested that if Pla had any difficulties, just say so, and they would try their best to help her. But Pla refused the assistant's help. In the evening, Pla's police friend also came to visit. He also learned from Pla that the person who came to vandalize her shop was the wife of the chairman. Pla told the police not to interfere anymore, because she would solve it herself. When the police wanted to express his feelings for Pla, Pla politely said that they were just friends. Seeing the back of the girl he loved leaving, the police could only feel heartache. Fime also turned around and told his lawyer, his subordinate, that the kind old woman was Pla's grandmother. They couldn't believe that his stepmother would do such a terrible thing. Fime also sighed in agreement, which was why his mother couldn't bear it and chose to leave. Currently, the stepmother was finding out about Pla's whereabouts, and discovered that Pla was waiting for her in front of the office early in the morning. It turned out that Pla knew that the chairman's wife had sent people to smash her grandmother's shop, so she took the initiative to find her to talk. She said that she and the chairman only had a working relationship, and nothing else, and told her to rest assured, and not to disturb her family anymore. However, the chairman's wife didn't believe her. As they were talking tensely, the chairman arrived and caught this scene. Seeing his wife making things difficult for Pla like this, he was very unhappy, and had a big argument with his wife right in the office. The sound of the argument made the employees curious to watch, and also made those who liked to gossip think all sorts of things, all guessing that the chairman and his wife were arguing because of Pla. This matter reached Fime's ears, making him extremely smug. He was happy that his plan had worked, and his stepmother and Pla had indeed fought fiercely. He wanted to punish such money grubbers, but he found Pla to talk to, blaming her for not only not solving the problem, but also making the problem more serious. Fime suggested that Pla ask for his help, and he could help her solve the problem perfectly, but Pla refused his help. However, Pla didn't expect that because of this matter, the chairman and his wife would continue to argue when they got home. Seeing his wife being so unreasonable and making trouble, the chairman greatly missed his first wife, who was Fime's birth mother. However, at this time, he didn't know that his first wife was in the hospital for treatment. It turned out that Fime's mother was currently suffering from cancer. She was sitting alone crying in the hospital's rest area. Pla, passing by, saw this scene and kindly went to comfort and advise her. At this time, Pla had no idea that the beautiful middle-aged woman in front of her was Fime's birth mother. After finishing her grandmother's affairs at the hospital, Pla went to the company to work, but was made difficult and humiliated by the stepmother's subordinates. However, Pla wasn't one to be trifled with, and she immediately fought back. Because there were rumors that Pla and the chairman had an ambiguous relationship, the colleagues in the office all shunned her. Only USA, a new intern, played with her. Because she was new to the company, USA was also alone. They became good friends after only a few words. However, at this time, USA had no idea that Pla would later become her formidable rival in love. Today, USA and Pla were preparing to go to lunch when Fime came and saw them and deliberately ridiculed Pla. Pla had to tactfully leave. It turned out that Fime deliberately chased Pla away. He told USA, his neighborhood sister, to stay away from Pla, as he was afraid that people like Pla would corrupt her. On the other hand, the chairman learned that Pla's grandmother was in the hospital, so he went to the hospital to visit her. He apologized to her and promised to compensate for the damage to her shop. Her sister learned about the chairman's identity and eagerly fawned over him, and introduced her husband, hoping that her husband could cooperate with his company. Afterward, Fime's father apologized to Pla for his wife's actions and told Pla that she looked a lot like his ex-wife, and said that seeing Pla made him miss Fime's mother very much. But he didn't know that at this time, Fime's mother was at the hospital and had just walked past him. Returning from the hospital, Fime's father had even more goodwill towards Pla. He told his driver that he liked Pla very much and hoped that she would always be by his side. But he didn't know that these words had been recorded and sent to his wife's phone. She heard these words from her husband and was so angry that she suffered internal injuries. Her son Pete saw his mother in so much pain and had the idea of revenge, and went with his friends to the cake shop where Pla's brother worked to cause trouble. Getting the news, Fime also told Pla to come to the cake shop. When Pete was about to attack Pla's brother, Fime arrived to stop his half-brother and asked why he was assaulting others. Pete explained that because Pla was seducing his father and making his mother heartbroken, he came to teach her brother a lesson. After chasing his brother away, Fime went to comfort Pla's brother and said that his grandmother had to be hospitalized because of his sister. Learning the truth, Pla's brother was very angry with his sister. He begged his sister not to provoke the chairman anymore. Although Pla tried to explain to her brother to believe her, it was useless. Her brother still left heartbroken. Seeing this scene, Fime came again to advise Pla to leave his father and come to work for him. That way they could both avoid hurting their families. But Pla still refused to work for him. However, what happened next made Pla finally change her mind. It turned out that the stepmother couldn't beat Pla, so she wanted to use Fime to eliminate her. So, she released the recording of Fime's father having goodwill towards Pla. The recording proved that his father really liked Pla. This stimulated Fime a lot. He didn't want to hurt his family because of Pla's existence, so he took ruthless action again. He told employees to stick Pla's sexy photos all over the company, and deliberately spread rumors that Pla relied on her beauty to climb up, becoming the chairman's mistress and secretary. Therefore, the employees in the company began to gossip about Pla. When Pla heard the rumors, she came to argue with her colleagues again. Seeing this, everyone dismissed. Pla had to tear down those photos herself. Feeling helpless, Pla was very sad. She thought that the person who did all these things was the chairman's wife. Because she had to pay for her grandmother's hospital fees, she couldn't quit her job and lose this job. After careful consideration, Pla decided to leave the chairman and come to work for Fime. So she found Fime to talk, asking him to ensure the safety of her family. At the same time, Pla also agreed to tell his father that she came to work for him because of money. Things had reached this point, and Pla had to follow instructions and tell the chairman. The chairman offered to pay a higher salary and sincerely asked Pla to stay and work for him, but Pla still politely refused. Fime's father immediately ran to question his son. What was his purpose in doing this? Fime said that he just wanted to prove that Pla was a money grubber, and said that the only person who truly loved him was his mother. He only said he was an idiot. If his mother really loved him, she wouldn't have left him for so long. The stepmother knew about this and was very happy, but she was still not at ease about her husband, so she told her subordinates to continue to send people to monitor her husband's every move. At the same time, Fime was also very happy. He was determined to use his efforts to conquer Pla's heart, so that she would willingly become his person. But Fime, out of pride, still refused to admit that he had feelings for Pla. Finally, the day came for Pla to come to the company to work. Fime couldn't help but tease the goddess. Now you are my person. On Pla's first day of work, Fime began his crazy pursuit of beauty. He stared at Pla non-stop, making her feel very uncomfortable. After work, he didn't care about Pla's opposition and dragged her to dinner, taking her to a fancy restaurant. It turned out that Fime always thought Pla was a money grubber. He thought that as long as he gave her a rich material life, he could easily conquer her. But he didn't expect that. Seeing him flaunt his wealth like this, Pla would voluntarily invite the entire restaurant to dinner in his name, and then firmly leave the restaurant. Pla wanted to use this method to make Femme see that it was difficult to retreat, and not to pester her anymore. But Femme still insisted that she stay for dinner together. So Pla took a dose of poison to treat poison, unexpectedly taking him to a roadside stall. This made Femme, who was dressed in high-end brand names, feel uncomfortable, realizing that Pla was not one to be trifled with. Femme also spoke kindly to Pla, hoping that they could make peace in the future. Afterward, they had a pleasant dinner together. Returning home, Pla live-streamed selling green plants in the evening. Her best friend learned that Femme was pursuing her, and advised her to test his heart, not to agree easily. Femme complained to his lawyer, his assistant, that he had failed with Pla. The assistant believed that some women really couldn't be bought with money, but Femme still didn't believe it. He thought he just hadn't given enough material things yet. So the next day, he bought a lot of luxury goods and sent them to Pla's house. Pla intended to refuse to accept them, but the delivery ladies said that they had already been paid for and couldn't be returned. Pla had no choice but to accept those luxury items, but she came up with a new idea. She brought all those luxury items to the company and distributed them to the employees as a reward. Seeing this scene, Femme was so angry that his face turned pale. Hearing Pla say that she didn't want to accept his gifts, Femme directly confessed his love to Pla, but Pla didn't believe him at all, thinking that he was just playing with her, and once again declared that his money couldn't buy everything. He declared in front of Pla that he would make her believe that he really liked her. Femme again recounted the situation to his lawyer assistant. He believed that Pla just had greater ambitions, so she didn't believe his confession and denied that he really liked Pla. He wanted to prove to his father that Pla was a money grubber. She only liked his father's money. Then Femme took Pla on a business trip. They went to Wicket's place. The two disagreed and almost fought. Pla hurriedly stopped them. Afterward, Femme took Pla home and used the excuse of visiting her grandmother to enter the house. Her grandmother even invited him to stay for dinner. The maid in the house realized that Femme was pursuing Pla, and she was very worried, because she discovered that Femme was a strong competitor to her son. So, she went home and told her son that if he liked Pla, he had to confess his love quickly. The next day, police officer Yos took Pla to work, and took the initiative to confess his love to her. Pla couldn't bear to directly reject her friend's feelings, so she told him that she could try. When Yos brought her to the company, this scene was just seen by Femme. He couldn't help but feel jealous, and even misunderstood that Pla knew how to use her beauty to attract men. But next, something happened that he didn't expect. He saw an intimate photo of his father and Pla. It turned out that today, Pla was working when she received a call from her brother, saying that her grandmother had suddenly fainted and was taken to the hospital. Pla didn't have time to explain the situation to Femme, who was in a meeting, so she left a note asking for leave and rushed to the hospital. When she arrived at the company gate, she accidentally sprained her foot. By chance, Femme's father saw this scene and hurriedly came to check her injury. Knowing that she was in a hurry to visit her grandmother at the hospital, he kindly offered to take her. But Femme's stepmother's people had taken a picture of this scene. Seeing this intimate photo, the stepmother was very angry and told her subordinates to send it to Femme. Femme didn't investigate and immediately believed it, thinking that Pla had set her sights on his father's money. After all, the company now belonged to his father. He was just the heir. Hearing his assistant say that his father really liked Pla, Femme decided to prove to his father that Pla only loved his money. On the other hand, Pla arrived at the hospital. After thanking Femme's father, she hurriedly ran to the ward to visit her grandmother. But Femme's father didn't leave. He came to the hospital to ask about Pla's grandmother's situation. He asked for her room number from the nurse's station. At this time, he didn't know that the wife he yearned for was in the hospital, and had once again walked past him. At the same time, Pla learned from her brother that her grandmother's condition had worsened. The doctor said surgery had to be performed as soon as possible. So, she ran to the cashier to ask, but found that she couldn't afford this expensive hospital fee. Although Femme's father said that he was willing to pay for the surgery, Pla still refused his good intentions. However, what happened next surprised her. Femme's father directly confessed his love to her, saying that seeing her reminded him of his first wife, and wanted to spend the rest of his life with her, and said that he had no feelings for his current wife, and she didn't have any title, just the mother of his son. Pla firmly refused Femme's father's confession, but she didn't expect that this would make Femme's father like her even more. At this time, she didn't think much, She was just worried about not earning enough money for her grandmother's surgery. So she called her sister again, hoping to borrow money from her brother-in-law. But her sister was afraid of her mother-in-law's prestige and had to cruelly refuse her sister and told her to use her beauty to borrow money from Feem's father. That night, Pla stayed at the hospital to take care of her grandmother. Seeing her grandmother worrying about the surgery money, Pla lied that she had borrowed money from her brother-in-law. The next day, her sister came to visit her grandmother. Her grandmother didn't know anything and thanked her for her help. Her sister misunderstood that her sister had secretly found her husband, so she decided to ask for clarification. At this time, Pla had returned to work. She apologized to Feem because she was in a hurry, so she only left a message asking for leave. Although Feem didn't care on the surface, he always had it in his heart. He deliberately made Pla still have to go to the market survey with him after work, and gave her a difficult task, telling her to put the game box in a suitable position. But next, she and Feem accidentally had intimate contact. Feem didn't expect that the love game he designed for the beauty would make himself fall in love. While working, they accidentally shared their first kiss. They looked at each other for a while, and after recovering, they only knew to use smiles to hide their embarrassment. Afterward, Feem deliberately teased Pla again, telling her to check the fire escape of each floor. Pla had to wear high heels to climb each floor, and then report the usage situation to Feem. Pla knew very well that the boss was deliberately making things difficult for her. But to be able to receive her salary smoothly, she had to endure it. After completing this task, Pla was very sorry for only leaving a note asking for leave last time. She thought that Chairman Feem was angry with her about this. Feem used sweet words with Pla, saying that he cared about her, and continued to invite her to dinner. Pla refused his good intentions and left on her own. But Pla had just arrived at the company lobby when she met her sister blocking the way. Her sister, without saying a word, slapped Pla, then grabbed her hair to vent her anger. Her sister scolded her for seducing her husband, wanting to steal her husband. Although Pla explained to her sister that it wasn't like that, her sister didn't listen at all. When she was about to hit Pla again, Feem, passing by, stopped her in time and chased her elder sister out of the company. Pla thanked Feem and hurriedly left the company. Not long after, Pla received a text message from the bank, saying that due to a poor credit limit, she couldn't borrow money from the bank. This meant that she hadn't earned enough money for her grandmother's surgery again. On the advice of her best friend, she went to the company's personnel department to apply for an advance on her salary, but was rejected because she hadn't worked at the company for a full year. Feem, passing by, saw her coming out of the personnel department and asked a colleague the reason why Pla had come to the personnel department. Knowing that she was applying for an advance on her salary to pay for her grandmother's surgery, he immediately went to the hospital to pay her grandmother's hospital fees. Not long after, Pla received a text message from the hospital saying that her grandmother would have surgery tomorrow because someone had paid the hospital fees. Pla immediately went to the hospital to check and unexpectedly discovered that the person who paid for her grandmother was Feem. Feem was coaxing her grandmother very happily. Pla could only stand and watch the two of them talk. When she took Feem out of the hospital, Feem blamed Pla for not telling him that she was in trouble. He had to hear about her grandmother having surgery from the personnel department. He really wanted to help her grandmother, so he paid the hospital fees. To prevent Pla from feeling pressured, he told Pla to treat this money as a loan from him. Pla happily agreed to deduct it from her salary. In the elevator, to prove that he liked Pla, Feem suddenly kissed her. His teasing action made Pla both angry and embarrassed. Before leaving, Feem allowed Pla to take leave to take care of her grandmother in the hospital. Seeing Feem's thoughtful actions, Pla was stunned for a moment. But Feem thought that Pla was pretending. At this time, Feem left still not knowing that, just now when he and Pla were talking, his mother had seen him. It was just a pity that Feem's mother didn't see her son's face clearly before the man who was taking care of her pushed her away. The man was hurriedly completing the procedures to transfer her to another hospital. It turned out that this man had seen Feem's mother's husband and son long ago. He didn't want to lose Feem's mother, so he wanted to transfer her to another hospital to prevent them from meeting. On the other hand, Feem's father learned that his son had quickly paid the hospital fees for Pla's grandmother and scolded his subordinates for not working efficiently. But he said if his son really liked Pla, he would definitely give way to his son. If his son did this to take revenge on him and play with Pla's feelings, then he would definitely not allow it. In fact, Feem's father's guess was correct. Initially, Feem pursued Pla to take revenge on his father, But now it seemed that he had been unable to control himself and had fallen in love with Pla. Lying on the bed, Phim tossed and turned, unable to sleep. The image of him kissing the beauty kept appearing in his head. Realizing his feelings, he was very regretful and annoyed. However, at this time, Phim still didn't know that, just like him, Pla was also tossing and turning, unable to sleep. The image of Phim kept appearing in her head as well. She had gradually fallen into his love trap. The grandmother's surgery was very successful. Knowing this news, Phim came to visit her. Accidentally, he met Yos, who was also here. The two love rivals looked at each other with fire in their eyes. However, with the identity of Pla as superior, Phim took her to try on dresses to prepare for the party tomorrow. First, he chose a beautiful evening dress for her, then gave her an expensive diamond necklace. When Chairman Phim led the beauty to appear at the party, Pla immediately attracted everyone's attention, becoming the most outstanding person at the party. Wicket saw the beauty that could overturn the city and the country, and immediately came to strike up a conversation with her. Phim was jealous and hurriedly pulled Pla away, deliberately holding her hand to show his dominance, then led her to greet the elders. Seeing this scene, USA's heart was stirred with jealousy, especially when Phim introduced to everyone that he was pursuing Pla, which made her so angry that her face turned pale. USA also developed hostility towards Pla. So, when Phim went to socialize, she deliberately mocked Pla, saying that she was delusional, didn't know her place, and wanted to step into the upper class of the rich. Pla didn't know why USA was targeting her. At this time, the chairman's wife also came to ridicule Pla, criticizing Phim for having poor taste and liking someone who used to be a car model, mocking Pla's profession as low and despicable. Pla also responded strongly, saying that the chairman's wife had old-fashioned ideas and couldn't keep up with the times. She only used a few sentences to make her speechless. Unable to argue back, the chairman's wife had to leave. Pla didn't want to participate in this party at all, so she told USA that she wanted to go out and get some fresh air. Wicket, seeing this, also used an excuse to leave and followed Pla. He ran outside to strike up a conversation with Pla. At the same time, elsewhere, after greeting everyone, Phim immediately went to the hall to find Pla. USA, seeing this, had a bad idea. She told Phim that Pla had arranged for Wicket to go outside and talk, and lied that they were very intimate. Phim was jealous, and immediately ran to the balcony to find Wicket to settle the score. Knowing that Wicket was very interested in Pla, Phim almost attacked him. Luckily, Pla stopped Phim and took him away. However, Phim was consumed by jealousy and questioned which hotel Pla would be going to with Wicket next. Insulted, Pla slapped him across the face. In anger, Phim forcefully kissed her. Pla slapped him again. Calming down, Phim softly apologized to Pla. Just as Pla was about to forgive Phim, a sudden event changed everything. At this time, Phim received a call. It turned out that their younger brothers had arranged a fight. Phim hurriedly led Pla to the scene, discovering that Pla's brother had been beaten very badly. Phim hurriedly went to stop his brother and called an ambulance. Pla quickly followed the ambulance to the hospital. After lecturing his brother, Phim learned that his brother had misunderstood that Pla was seducing his father, so he had attacked her brother. Phim told his brother to rest assured and not to act rashly in the future, and told him to go to the police station to confess. Afterward, he went to the hospital to apologize to Pla on behalf of his brother. But Pla, in anger, thought that Phim was being fake and wouldn't demand justice for her brother, so she angrily chased him away. Phim overheard that Pla's brother was safe and was relieved to leave the hospital, then went to the police station to visit his brother and told the lawyer to complete the procedures to bail out his brother. He again saw the stepmother's secretary reporting to her, saying that her son had been arrested and taken to the police station. Seeing this, Phim thought that his stepmother would definitely retaliate, so he was very worried about Pla's safety. Phim's guess was correct. The stepmother thought that the cause of everything was Pla, so she hired a group of thugs to go to Pla's house to cause trouble with the two sisters. Just as Pla was in danger, Phim arrived in time to save her. He chased away the thugs and his stepmother. Afterward, he took the opportunity to express his feelings to Pla again. To give Pla an explanation, Phim persuaded his brother to confess to the police and told him to apologize to the two Pla sisters. This case was resolved smoothly with the cooperation of lawyers on both sides. Initially, Phim also thought that he could solve this problem perfectly, but the stepmother came to brainwash her son, saying that his brother wasn't really good to him and was only using him to please Pla. Initially, Feme's brother didn't pay attention to his mother's words until Feme's father learned about it and came to lecture them, and frankly told the two that he really liked Pla, and told them not to interfere in his affairs. Feme's father's words enraged Pete. He immediately called to threaten Pla, warning her that if she continued to be involved with his father, he would take her brother's life. For the safety of her brother, Pla finally decided to quit her job. So the next day, she found Feme's father to submit her resignation. Feme's father also hoped that Pla would stay away from his son, so he agreed immediately. Feme's father also told his subordinates to secretly help Pla find a suitable job. On the other hand, Feme didn't know anything, and came to the company to find that his secretary had been replaced by USA. It was at this time that he knew Pla had secretly resigned. Knowing that his father had approved Pla's resignation, he came to blame his father for agreeing. He said that it was because he was pursuing Pla that her life was in danger. Feme's father told his son that he really liked Pla, so he didn't want his son to be involved with Pla to take revenge on him. But this aroused Feme's desire to win. The more his father prevented him, the more he wanted to prove it to his father. So Feme was determined to pursue Pla. On the other hand, Pla, after resigning, asked an acquaintance to introduce her to a part-time job, then went to the hospital to visit her grandmother, and happened to meet Feme's mother saying goodbye. It turned out that Feme's mother said that she couldn't afford the expensive hospital fees, so she would transfer to another hospital for surgery. Feme's mother hoped that Pla would come to her house to play next time. When Pla saw Feme's mother out of the elevator, she just walked past Feme. Feme's mother almost saw her son, but the man who was taking care of her deliberately blocked her view. The two missed the opportunity to meet again. Feme begged Pla to come back to work, but Pla told him the reason for her resignation. She said that his brother had called to threaten her, and that for the safety of her family, she had to resign. At this time, Pla received a phone call introducing her to a job, and hurriedly went to the part-time workplace. It turned out that she had to perform an advertisement for a newly opened hair salon. Next, Pla wore sexy fashionable clothes and danced hot dances in front of the salon with other girls to advertise the hair salon. Many men filmed Pla dancing. Feme came and saw this scene, hurriedly ran to chase those men away, and told them not to film his girlfriend. Feme even spent a lot of money for Pla, only allowing her to wash his hair alone. However, to eliminate her rival, USA called Feme's enemy, saying that Pla had resigned from the company, and told Wicket to hire Pla to work. At this time, Wicket saw Pla working at the hair salon, so he bought a VIP membership card from the hair salon, and appointed Pla to wash his hair. While Feme was immersed in the joy of being served by Pla, he realized that the person washing his hair wasn't Pla. So, he hurriedly went to find her, discovering that Pla was washing his enemy's hair. He immediately rushed to hit Wicket, and pulled Pla away. Feme told Pla to quit her job here, to come to his company to work. But Pla firmly disagreed. So Feme used the matter of paying off the debt to force her again. But at this time, Wicket deliberately came to disrupt. He also advised Pla to come to his company to work, and promised to help her pay off her debt to Feme. Finally, they decided to use a car racing game to determine the winner. The loser would not be allowed to be involved with Pla anymore. But the enemy had tampered with Feme's car, so Feme lost unexpectedly. Even so, Feme won Pla's affection because he risked his life in the race. Seeing Feme leave the racetrack with a frustrated expression, Pla softened and turned down Wicket's job offer. She took the initiative to talk to Feme, asking him why he was so eager to persuade her to come back to work. Feme explained that he wanted to fulfill his previous promise, because he had once said that he would protect her and her family. Only if she continued to be his secretary could he best protect her and her family. And he also gave a convincing reason. His stepmother and brother wouldn't believe that she and his father had no relationship just because she resigned. The best way was for her and him to date, so that they wouldn't make things difficult for her and her family anymore. After careful consideration, Pla finally agreed to return to work as his secretary. But USA didn't know anything. Today, she dressed gorgeously, wanting to show off her charm in front of Feme. But when she arrived at the company, Feme informed her that Pla had returned to work, and told her to return to her position. This made USA very heartbroken. Feme held Pla's hand and showed affection in the company, deliberately flaunting his achievement to his father. Seeing their intimate actions, USA, who secretly liked Feme, was extremely jealous. She immediately went to cry and ask for help from her father. So USA's father put pressure on Feme's father, saying that Feme often came to their house, causing his daughter to have a bad reputation, and no one dared to ask to marry her. So, he wanted Femme to take responsibility for his daughter. Femme's father immediately said that he liked USA as his daughter-in-law, and immediately agreed to Femme and her marriage. As soon as he got home, that night, Femme's father talked to his son about this, telling him to propose to USA. To ruin this marriage, and also to force USA to back down, Femme came up with a way. He wanted to create an opportunity to be alone with Pla, so that his father and others would know that he and Pla were a couple, so he wouldn't be forced to marry anymore. After discussing with his lawyer assistant, Femme finally came up with a way. Femme called Pla a sister, expressing his desire to pursue her sister, and asking her sister to help him create an opportunity. Her elder sister also hoped that her sister could marry such a handsome Femme, so she cooperated with Femme to put on a play to deceive Pla. She used the excuse of work to ask Pla to go to the beach with her, saying that her brother-in-law wanted to cooperate with Femme, and they needed to survey the land there, and told Pla to go with Femme first. Not long after, they arrived at a seaside village. After surveying the land there, Femme took Pla to play on the beach. Hearing Femme say that he planned to turn this place into a resort, Pla also felt that this place had a good geographical location and beautiful scenery, and was not a bad project. Afterward, they played together with the children in the fishing village. Femme even played soccer with the children. Pla learned from the villagers that Femme had always helped the villagers here, and had bought this land, because he wanted them to have a home to live in. The villagers said that Femme wanted to build a resort, because he was thinking of them. Femme also shared his dream with Pla. The reason he wanted to build a resort here, turning this place into a tourist destination, was hoping that the fishermen would have more income, and have more options to make a living. Otherwise, they could only live by the weather, going out to sea to fish. Pla also praised that Femme's idea was great. Through this trip to the beach, the relationship between Pla and Chairman Femme had progressed by leaps and bounds. They even joked like a couple in love. Femme even deliberately shared the same glass of juice with Pla to shorten the distance between the two. They didn't know that in the distance, there was a photographer secretly taking pictures of this scene. Not long after, Pla returned to the room overlooking the sea that Femme had arranged for her. Seeing Femme give her another beautiful bouquet of flowers, Pla was very happy, completely unaware that this was a love trap that Femme had set for her. It turned out that the photographer was hired by Femme. He deliberately had people take intimate photos of him and Pla, then had people send the photos to the gossip mongers in the company. Before long, everyone knew that Femme had taken Pla on a beach trip. USA, who secretly liked Femme, saw the photos and screamed in anger. USA's father, feeling sorry for his daughter, sent people to the beach to assassinate Pla, and Pla was currently immersed in sweet love. Femme's image always appeared in her head. Femme, looking at the intimate photos of him and Pla, also smiled contentedly. The next day, Pla's sister and brother-in-law brought their children to the beach. They again surveyed the land there together. When Pla left the group to find her sister and niece, she again encountered the bad guys coming to take revenge on her. At this time, everyone saw her sister come back, but Pla was nowhere to be found. Femme hurriedly went to search everywhere, and found her phone lying on the ground. Soon after, he heard Pla's cry for help. When Femme ran after the cry, he saw the bad guys were about to harm her. Femme hurriedly rushed to save Pla, and quickly chased the bad guys away. Pla was frightened, hugged him tightly and burst into tears. Afterward, Femme called the police to report the case. The police, after learning about the situation, suspected that the thief was targeting Pla's property. When Pla calmed down, her brother-in-law said that to celebrate Femme's cooperation with their company, they had hired a yacht to celebrate on the sea. But when Pla boarded the boat, her sister called to tell her, lying that she and her husband had something to do and couldn't come. So Femme again had the opportunity to go on a private date with Pla. Femme said that her sister must have arranged this for them, and pretended to say that if Pla didn't want to go with him, they could turn back. But the kind-hearted Pla said that it was no trouble. So the two continued to play on the sea, from morning to night. At the same time, the police officer who secretly liked Pla learned that she and Femme were going out. So he hurriedly called her sister to ask about her whereabouts. Her sister lied that Pla was swimming with her child. Through this period of intimacy, Femme also truly understood that he liked Pla. They had a very understanding conversation on the yacht. Both told about the misfortunes of their families in the past. Femme understood more clearly that he had been prejudiced against her before, and he had always misunderstood Pla as a money grubber. After opening their hearts and talking, they became closer and closer. Seeing Femme's sincerity and persistent confession, Pla finally let go of her guard and accepted his love. They exchanged a sweet kiss and had a wonderful and happy night on the yacht. After a passionate night, the two woke up together and confessed their feelings to each other. After confirming their relationship, both were very happy. When they returned to shore, Pla went to meet her sister again, asking if her sister had arranged for her and Fime. At this time, her sister told her that Fime wanted to pursue her, so she created opportunities for them to be alone together. Knowing the truth, Pla again questioned Fime, asking if he had arranged everything at the beach. Fime apologized to Pla and confessed that it was because he really wanted to be with her. Pla asked Fime never to deceive her again. Fime also agreed immediately, but he hid his initial purpose when calling Pla to the beach. What they didn't know was that the camera on the yacht was secretly installed by her sister. Not long after, Fime took Pla home again. They even kissed goodbye in the car. This scene was seen by the police officer who secretly liked Pla. He misunderstood that Fime was taking advantage of Pla, so he ran to beat Fime to a pulp. Pla tried hard to stop them, and they finally stopped. To avoid escalating the situation, Pla hurriedly chased Fime away. Hearing her police friend advise her to be careful of Fime, Pla didn't tell the truth about her relationship with Fime because she wanted to keep her relationship private. But what happened next broke her heart. After returning from the resort, Pla learned from her colleagues that Fime and USA were getting engaged. The news of their engagement was even reported by the media. USA even invited her to attend the wedding. Pla was heartbroken and tried to suppress her pain, pretending that nothing was wrong, and congratulating USA. After making an excuse to leave, she wanted to call and ask Fime the reason. But at this time, Fime was in court, disputing with Wicket. Because he was in court, he had to turn off his phone. So Pla couldn't get through to Fime. What everyone didn't know was that the news of Fime and USA's engagement was posted by Wicket at her instigation, because she wanted to use all means to get Fime. Although he lost the case and was fined money for Fime, Wicket happily told Fime that the amount of the loss was considered his engagement gift. He also advertised everywhere the news that Fime was about to get engaged to USA. Fime saw this news on his assistant's phone. He guessed that it was fake news released by Wicket, so he hurriedly chased after him to question him. But Wicket asked him the reason for pursuing Pla, and even insulted him as being just like his father, a philanderer. Angered, Fime gave Wicket a thunderous punch. A brawl was about to break out, but luckily the lawyers on both sides came to stop them, and they finally stopped. Fime returned to the company to find Pla, but learned that she had taken sick leave and gone home. It turned out that Pla had been summoned by the chairman. He gave her a stack of photos of the intimate scenes of her and Fime at the beach, saying that Fime pursued her to defeat him. So he had people take these photos to show him. Seeing the photos, Pla was extremely devastated, because these photos could only have been arranged by Fime. She began to doubt Fime's motives for pursuing her. So when Fime ran to her house to explain about the news of his engagement with USA, Pla said that she wasn't heartbroken at all about that. After speaking, she took out the intimate photos at the beach and asked about their origin. Fime also honestly admitted that he really wanted to prevent his father from continuing to harass her. Pla was very heartbroken. Although Fime wanted to explain sincerely again, Pla still felt hurt. She decided to calmly think about whether she should continue this relationship. That night, Pla also learned from her best friend that the news of the engagement was spread by Wicket without authorization. Hearing that Fime had almost fought with Wicket because of this matter, Pla couldn't help but feel a little comforted in her heart. Recalling Fime's sincere confession, her intuition told her that Fime loved her. But the things that had happened made her insecure. On this side, Fime was full of sorrow. He didn't know how to win back Pla's heart. On the advice of his assistant, he decided to pursue Pla with the constant dripping wears away the stone method, finding every way to make Pla believe in his love for her. Every early morning, he came to pick Pla up for work. At the office, he gave her bouquets of fresh flowers again. Seeing the warm, caring messages in the card, Pla couldn't help but feel warm-hearted. Fime again hugged her gently from behind and expressed his feelings. This made Pla once again feel his love. If nothing unexpected happened, Fime's sincerity would soon move Pla, and they would be immersed in sweet love. However, happiness is fleeting. An event happened that changed everything. It turned out that Pla's sister, seeing the news that Fime was about to get engaged, felt extremely unfair. She didn't want her sister to be used for no reason, so she went to Fime's house, wanting to find the chairman to demand that his son take responsibility for Pla. But the person who greeted her was Fime's stepmother. Pla's sister thought she was the chairman's wife, and also Fime's mother, so she went straight to the point, even threatening her that she had to let Fime marry her sister, otherwise, she would release a video that would cause their company to suffer heavy losses. Initially, the stepmother didn't care much. When she saw the intimate video of Pla and Fime on the boat, she offered 500,000 to Pla's sister to transfer the video to her. Blinded by the money, Pla's sister didn't think much and immediately transferred the video to her. But Pla's sister didn't know what her evil intentions were. The stepmother turned around and released the video online. Pla's sister didn't know at all and was happy to have suddenly obtained a large sum of money, buying a lot of delicious food to visit her grandmother. When she accidentally turned on the TV, she saw that the intimate video of her sister and Fime was being broadcasted on TV. Witnessing this scene, Pla's sister was extremely horrified. She immediately called to question the stepmother, saying that she only sold the video to her and never wanted to release this video, and asked her what her motive was. The stepmother said that she was only Fime's stepmother, and the purpose of releasing the video was to harm Fime. Hearing their conversation, her grandmother understood everything. She couldn't believe that her elder sister would harm her younger sister like this, constantly scolding Pla's sister, even resorting to violence. In the scuffle, her sister accidentally pushed her grandmother, causing her to fall. Her grandmother fell and immediately had a heart attack. On this side, Pla also saw the video from a colleague. She angrily decided to find Fime to settle the score, but learned that Fime had been summoned to the office by the chairman. Soon after, she received a phone call reporting that her grandmother had been taken to the hospital. Pla didn't have time to talk to Fime and hurriedly went to the hospital, but received news from the doctor that her grandmother had passed away. She only saw her grandmother's cold body. At the same time, Fime was also being reprimanded by his father because the news of his engagement to USA had been released, demanding that he marry her no matter what. While the two were arguing, his assistant handed Fime the intimate video. Seeing the intimate video of his son and Pla, he blamed his son for going too far. Fime was also shocked after watching the video. He didn't have time to explain to his father and turned to the office to find Pla, but learned that Pla had taken sick leave to go to the hospital because her grandmother was ill. Fime also hurriedly went to the hospital, but was slapped by Pla. It turned out that Pla's sister didn't want the truth that she had caused her grandmother's death to be exposed, so she lied that her grandmother saw the news and video of her and Fime, was agitated, and had a heart attack. Pla was sad and blamed herself when she saw Fime blame it on him for recording the video that killed her grandmother. Although Fime explained that he knew nothing about the video, Pla, who was emotionally overwhelmed, couldn't hear his explanation and said that she would never believe him again. Suffering the shock of betrayal in love and the loss of her loved one, Pla fainted from grief. Later, everyone held a funeral for her grandmother. Although Fime wanted to visit her many times, he was chased away mercilessly. Pla threw away the grass ring that Fime gave her when they were in love, announcing her breakup with him. Fime wanted to explain, but he had no chance, so he could only pick up the grass ring and silently leave the temple with a painful expression. He could only stand from afar and silently pay his respects to her grandmother, crying until his eyes were swollen. But at this time, Fime still didn't know what he was about to face. Because Pla couldn't accept the pain of losing her grandmother, she decided to avenge the person who had caused her death. After her grandmother's funeral ended, Pla immediately found Wicket to discuss her revenge plan. Before that, Wicket had told Pla many times that if she encountered any difficulties, she could find him to help her. After learning about Pla's intention, Wicket agreed to help without hesitation. Afterward, Pla returned home to pack her luggage and took her brother away from this sad place. The next day, when Fime came to Pla's house, he only saw her police friend posting a rental advertisement. Although Fime begged them to tell him where Pla had gone, it was useless. Just like that, Pla disappeared from Fime's life. From then on, Fime became very negative, his beard was scruffy, and he often went to the bar to drink himself drunk. His assistant advised him to pull himself together and try to find a way to meet Pla to apologize. Just like that, Fime had been searching for 4 years. Today at the airport, he even mistook another girl for Pla, but he didn't know that, at this time, Pla was actually at the airport. Unfortunately, they had walked past each other. Moreover, Pla was bringing her son back from abroad. Accompanying them was Pla's brother, but Pla's son called Wicket, who came to pick them up. Dad. It turned out that Pla had now registered her marriage with Wicket in name. 4 years ago, Wicket had taken Pla and her brother to live abroad. During their life together, Wicket had fallen deeply in love with Pla. He sincerely proposed to Pla, but Pla said that she always regarded him as a friend. Then, something happened that made Pla change her mind. Before this, USA saw that Fime was only concerned with searching for Pla, and she felt unwilling, so she demanded that Fime get engaged to her. When he refused, she resorted to tricks again. She asked Wicket for some recent photos of Pla. USA gave the photos to her father, and her father sent the photos to Fime, telling Fime that he had found Pla, and if he wanted Pla to be safe, he had to get engaged to his daughter. So Fime was forced to get engaged to USA. Pla was very distressed to hear the news of their engagement. Moreover, at this time, she also had morning sickness symptoms. Wicket came to care for and comfort Pla. Although Pla was pregnant with Fime's child, he still took the position of revenge, advising Pla to register her marriage with him. He was willing to be Fime's replacement, be the father of the child, and promised to take good care of her and the child. Initially, Pla didn't agree, but seeing Wicket's sincerity, and also wanting to take revenge on Fime, she agreed to register her marriage with him. Wicket's father was furious to hear his son's decision, and became ill. So, this time when Wicket brought Pla and his son home, the old man didn't show any happiness towards the two, and even said that this child wasn't his grandson. Wicket asked Pla to stay and live with him. Soon after, Pla's best friend and police friend came to visit her, and saw the cute boy. Her best friend knew that Pla was still waiting for an opportunity to take revenge on Fime, although she advised Pla to let go of the past, and let each person live their own lives. Pla said that even if she had to break the net to catch the fish, she still wanted to take revenge on Fime, and hoped that her two friends would help her. When Pla learned that for the past 4 years, Fime had been coming to her old house once a week, she found it hard to believe. But she still thought that Fime had other intentions, and decided that she wouldn't wait for Fime to find her first, but would take the initiative to carry out her revenge plan. Knowing that Wicket and Fime were about to compete for a project, today she deliberately appeared, bumping into his arms. Fime, who had been searching for her for 4 years, was overjoyed to see her again, and immediately dropped his work to talk to her. On this side, Wicket took the opportunity to approach the business partner, stealing the cooperation project that originally belonged to Fime. Fime wanted to explain clearly to Pla, but Pla rudely interrupted him, and happily congratulated him on his marriage to USA. Fime said that he missed her very much, and he would cancel his engagement with USA, and start over with her. At this time, he didn't know that Pla was fully prepared and secretly pressed the record button, recording all the words he had just said. Moreover, Pla didn't believe his words. Receiving a text message from Wicket saying that he had won the project, Pla said goodbye to Fime, and hurriedly left, but Fime still held her back. Fortunately, her police friend came to help her distract him, and she was able to escape smoothly. Afterward, she complained to her friend that Fime still wanted to deceive her as before, but this time she was determined not to fall into the trap. Fime was reprimanded by his father for losing this important project, but he wasn't sad at all, and instead appeared very happy, because compared to the project, he cared more about Pla. He hurriedly shared this good news with his assistant, saying that he had obtained Pla's new phone number. But the assistant was a little suspicious of Pla's motives, because she hadn't appeared for the past 4 years. At this time, Pla came to her old house. Returning to this place made her think of her beloved grandmother, which made her feel extremely sad. At this time, Wicket also chased after her to comfort her, advising her that if she felt uncomfortable, she could stop. But Pla said that she had to take revenge on Fime with her own hands. After they left, Fime also came here. He hoped that he could find Pla here, but on the door was still a large lock. He asked his assistant to help him find out where Pla was currently living, because the assistant was currently a neighbor of Pla's best friend. Although the assistant had asked Pla's best friend, he still hadn't received an answer. So he texted Pla, but Pla didn't reply to him, and instead thanked Wicket for taking care of her for the past 4 years. That led to another sincere confession from Wicket. Fime never dreamed that the girl he secretly loved, the girl he had been searching for 4 years, had become someone else's wife when they met again. And what made him even more crazy was that she had also given birth to a child for someone else. But Fime didn't know that the cute boy in front of him was actually his own son. It turned out that after Fime's project failed last time, he had a good response plan. He found that foreign partner, wanting to persuade him to cooperate in opening more branches. At this time, coincidentally, Wicket and Pla were taking their son for a walk in the mall. Seeing Fime discussing the project with the foreign boss, Wicket went to interrupt, wanting to ruin his business. But fortunately, the foreign boss still gave him a chance. To avoid seeing Fime, Pla hurriedly dodged away. She asked a neighbor to help watch her son. The neighbor went to buy snacks for the child, and in a blink of an eye, the child had disappeared. It turned out that the child saw a woman wearing clothes similar to Pla's, thinking that it was his mother, so he chased after the woman and went very far. Finally, the boy encountered Fime. After learning about the situation, Fime helped the boy find his mother. Perhaps because like father, like son, the two quickly became close. Following the boy's directions, Fime took him to find his mother. From a distance, Pla saw the warm scene of the two, felt guilty, and hurriedly hid, not daring to appear to find her son. She didn't want Fime to discover the existence of her son, so she asked the neighbor to pick up the child. After learning about today's events, Wicket discussed with Pla that it was time for her and her son to appear as his wife and child. USA's father wanted to cultivate his daughter's marriage, so he took the name of organizing a charity party to invite everyone to dinner. The purpose was to have Fime and USA's marriage settled. Under pressure from his father, Fime agreed to play the role of USA's fiancé, but he said that this would be the last time he played this role because he planned to cancel his engagement with her. But what Fime didn't expect was that he would see Pla at the party. Pla attended as Wicket's wife, his opponent. Seeing this scene, Fime was heartbroken but still tried to stay calm. He watched with his own eyes as Wicket introduced his wife Pla to everyone, and even saw them show affection right there. Not to be outdone by Wicket, Fime pretended that nothing had happened, put his arm around his fiancée, and said that he would also get married to her soon. Pla and Fime spoke figuratively, mocking each other, the atmosphere filled with the smell of gunpowder. There was also something that Fime didn't expect. The boy he helped at the mall yesterday was Pla and Wicket's son. Seeing this scene, Fime was stunned in surprise. At this moment, he felt that he had completely failed. He didn't expect that the girl he had always been searching for had not only married someone, but also had such a big child. He decided to hide his pain and silently bless her. At this time, USA encouraged him, so as not to be outdone by Wicket, they had to go on stage and speak as husband and wife-to-be at the charity party. But Fime spoke from his heart about Pla on stage. However, Pla, who always misunderstood Fime, couldn't understand his sincere words, and ordered her brother to carry out her revenge plan. In fact, Fime's heartfelt words were for Pla to hear, but to save some dignity for himself, and also to save face for his fiancée, he solemnly introduced USA as his fiancée. But as soon as he finished speaking, the recording of the conversation between Fime and Pla from last time sounded. In the recording, Fime said that he always missed her, that he would cancel his engagement with his fiancée and start over with Pla. Everyone was in an uproar after hearing the recording. The reporters kept asking about the authenticity of the recording. This recording caused USA to lose all face and run out of the hall in pain. Fime wanted to chase after her to comfort his fiancée, but it was too late because she had already left in a taxi. Fime was slapped by his brother. His brother blamed him for hurting the girl he loved. It was at this time that Fime knew that his brother had always secretly loved USA. He encouraged his brother to boldly pursue his love. Afterward, Fime returned to the hotel. He secretly blocked Pla when she came out of the bathroom, asking why she ruined his reputation. Pla frankly said that it was because he was the cause of her grandmother's death. The bad things he did to her made her grandmother heartbroken and die, so she would never forget how he had ruined her life. Fime tried to explain to Pla, but Pla, who was angry, didn't give him a chance. She was heartbroken that she didn't have a chance to explain to her grandmother, and told Fime that she would try her best to take revenge on him. Fime could only watch Pla and Wicket leave. At this time, he no longer had the right to hold her back. After hearing Fime's complaints and explanations, his assistant advised him to try to clarify the misunderstanding with Pla, that he knew nothing about the video on the boat. It wasn't him who recorded it, and it wasn't him who released it. Fime gloomily said that it didn't matter anymore, because Pla was now married and had children. He also guessed that it was Wicket who had instigated Pla to do this, because he wanted to hurt him and lose favor with USA's father. Thinking of this, he hurriedly called to comfort his fiancée, but USA, who was angry, didn't answer the phone. At this time, he didn't know that USA had asked his brother to go with her. Pete comforted USA, and then confessed his love to her, saying that although she had become his brother's fiancée, it didn't affect his love for her. Hearing his sincere confession, USA was moved and kissed Pete. Pete didn't want to have an intimate relationship with her, but at this time, USA boldly pushed him down. But the next morning, after getting dressed, USA changed her mind. She told Pete to forget everything that had happened last night. Arriving at her doorstep, she was surrounded by reporters, asking her if she would cancel her engagement with Fime. She evaded the question and ran into the house. Although her father also asked her to cancel her engagement with Fime, she didn't want to lose Fime, and also didn't want to lose to Pla, who came from a poor background. She even pretended to be sick to threaten her parents to support her marriage with Fime. At the same time, there were also many reporters at Pla's doorstep to interview her. Pla frankly told everyone that the recording at the party was done by her, and that she did it to let USA see Fime's true colors, and at the same time declared that she was now Wicket's wife, and would never go back to him. Wicket also showed affection to Pla in front of the camera, saying that he would support all his wife's decisions. Seeing the video, Fime was extremely frustrated. He was sad that the person Pla married was Wicket. He realized that Pla deliberately did this to take revenge on him. At this time, he no longer cared what others were saying about him. The only thing he wanted to do was call off his engagement with USA. But what he didn't expect was that his father would force him to marry USA, or else their family store would have to close. It turned out the lease on their store was about to expire, and USA's father didn't want to renew it. He used this to threaten Fime's family and force Fime to marry his daughter. His father advised his son to marry USA. After all, Pla was married with a child, but Fime said he refused to marry someone he didn't love, and he would find another way to resolve the crisis. Fime quickly bypassed USA's father and found the company's shareholders to discuss renewing the lease. After Fime explained and persuaded them, the shareholders all agreed to continue the lease. Fime had easily solved this crisis, but what he didn't expect was that as soon as he solved one problem, he would face a new crisis. They planned to buy the operating rights for a restaurant brand, but the restaurant's owner refused. Knowing Wicket was also eyeing this restaurant, Fime wanted to beat Wicket, so he personally went to the restaurant to learn the situation. He discovered Wicket's representative was Pla. They learned from the restaurant owner's son that his father was worried the buyer wouldn't run the restaurant well, which would hurt the restaurant's reputation, so he was still hesitating. Pla and Fime worked together to persuade the restaurant owner's son, advising him to persuade his father to give them a chance. Both said they would work at the restaurant so the owner could see their abilities and determination, believing they were the best choice to entrust the restaurant to. While the restaurant owner's son went to persuade his father, they told their assistants and best friends about this, and both said they wouldn't lose to the other. Fime angrily questioned Pla again, criticizing her for using Wicket to get revenge on him. Because of their misunderstanding, they argued after only a few sentences, and the atmosphere became even more tense. Afterwards, both put on aprons and went into the kitchen. They wanted to show their cooking skills to the restaurant owner, so he would believe they were the best partner. The restaurant owner asked them to wash vegetables and make a mixed salad as quickly as possible. Pla and Fime both followed the restaurant owner's requests, quickly washing the ingredients. Pla even mocked Fime, saying he was probably a spoiled young master who had never been in the kitchen. Fime said that while he was studying abroad, he cooked for himself. This mixed salad was nothing to him. Pla, who came from a poor background, also said she had been helping in the kitchen since she was young, and her cooking skills were no worse than a chef's. But she ran into a problem when she was cutting the onions. The onion juice accidentally shot into her eyes. Seeing this, Fime hurriedly ran over to care for her, but Pla angrily refused his help. However, she clumsily knocked over a kettle. In the end, Fime was the one who helped her wash her eyes. Fime gently and carefully wiped her eyes, not hiding his love for Pla, which moved Pla. But her reason told her that she really loved Wicket now, and she would do everything she could to help her husband defeat him in their careers. Time passed, and both completed the task within the allotted time. The restaurant owner was very pleased with their dishes, and announced that he had to serve his customers. So that was it for today. He told them to continue the cooking competition another day. As they were preparing to leave the restaurant, they discovered that their best friends had arrived. Pla's best friend also brought her son Carter. It turned out Carter wanted to find his mom, so her best friend had to take him to where Pla was working. Fime warmly greeted Carter, but Pla interrupted, warning him not to tease her son. Seeing Pla about to leave in a hurry, Fime quickly said he would stay for dinner, and then talk to the restaurant owner about cooperation. Pla didn't want to lose to Fime. She didn't want him to talk to the restaurant owner privately, so she told her best friend and brother to stay for dinner. Unfortunately, because it was peak hours, they were arranged to sit at the same table. Thanks to this meal, Fime surprisingly discovered that the son of his ex-lover who he had been searching for 4 years, not only looked a lot like him, but also had the same preferences. Neither of them liked to eat carrots. Thinking about how he and Pla had broken up 4 years ago, and the boy was just 3 years old, Phim intuitively knew this boy was his own son. Thinking about this, Phim smiled happily. After the meal, he went to play with Carter, but he was stopped by Pla. Seeing Pla be so wary of him getting close to Carter, he was more and more sure of his guess. So, he told his assistant about his thoughts, and said he wanted to find proof to confirm that guess. Phim secretly followed Pla and found Carter's school. However, while Phim was busy investigating the boy's affairs, he didn't know danger was awaiting him. In order to gain USA's heart, his younger brother decided to defeat his brother and take his place in the company. Pete also begged Wicket to help him deal with his brother. To prove his theory, Phim looked for a chance to get close and start talking to Pla and her son. He wanted to get near Carter and take some hair or something similar from the boy, then go to the hospital to do a DNA test. But Pla didn't give him a chance. She refused to let Phim get close to her son. Phim wasn't discouraged and came up with a plan. He said the desserts at the shop across the street were delicious, and he asked Carter to go eat ice cream with him. Pla angrily stopped Phim and rudely chased him away. She said she would take her son to eat herself. So Pla had to take her son to eat ice cream. Unexpectedly, the shop manager told Pla to check on a car outside. The waitress told Pla to rest assured she would watch the child. But after Pla left, Phim sneaked into the dessert shop. He used the excuse of cleaning Carter's teeth to get a sample of the boy's oral mucosa. When Pla returned to the shop, Phim had already obtained the sample and slipped away. It turned out he had bribed the manager and waitress to help him chase Pla away, so he could get a sample of Carter's oral mucosa. Afterward, he gave the sample of his and Carter's oral mucosa to his assistant, asking him to help do a DNA test. As soon as he finished speaking, USA came to find him to talk, hoping he would fulfill their engagement. But Phim firmly told her that he had always treated her like a younger sister, and would cancel their engagement. USA angrily ran home, losing her temper. Seeing his daughter hurt again because of Phim, her father came to advise and comfort his daughter, and he brought the photos of Phim and Pla talking about the project at the restaurant earlier, saying that Phim was interested in Pla again. It turned out USA's father had always had people following Phim. USA was extremely angry after seeing the photos. She didn't understand why Phim still missed Pla, even though she had married and had a child with someone else. She couldn't help but vent all her resentment on Pla, asking her father to help her deal with Pla. At the same time, elsewhere, the assistant finally had the test results. When Phim saw the DNA test report, knowing he and Carter were father and son, he cried like a child, hugging his assistant tightly because he was so happy and excited. Afterward, he held the report and went to Pla's residence, wanting to take Carter home to recognize him as his father. He wanted to exercise his right as a father to Carter, but Pla pulled him aside, stopping him, saying that Carter had nothing to do with him. Seeing him produce the DNA test report, Pla angrily tore the report and threw it in Phim's face. She said that no matter what the test results were, Carter wasn't his son. At this time, Wicket also came to help Pla. He explained that according to current marriage laws, he and Pla were legally registered as married. Although Phim was Carter's biological father, he had signed Carter's birth certificate, so according to the law, Carter could only be his and Pla's son. Hearing this, Phim angrily hit Wicket. He insisted on taking Carter home, even saying he would tell Carter that he was his father. Seeing Phim not listening to his advice, Wicket angrily hit Phim. The two started fighting until Carter came, and they stopped. After Carter left, Wicket and Pla advised Phim not to tell the child about this, because if the child knew that the father he had been calling for so long wasn't his biological father, it would cause him psychological harm and confusion. Hearing Pla's sincere plea, and also because he didn't want to hurt his son's feelings, Phim had to give up his impulsive idea. He only asked to visit the child as an uncle, but he was still flatly refused by Pla. He had to leave helplessly. He was unwilling to let his son be raised by someone else, so he confided in his assistant. He hated the person who uploaded the video that year. It was that video that caused him and Pla to misunderstand and break up. At this time, he had no idea that the person who uploaded the video that year was his stepmother. Now Pla's sister, who was short of money, was using this matter to threaten his stepmother, demanding that she give more money, or else she would tell Phim and the chairman, revealing that it was she who uploaded the video that year. His stepmother didn't want to cause trouble for herself, so she had to use money to chase Pla's sister away. On this side, Feem missed his son and went to the school just to see his son one more time. But as soon as Carter greeted him, Pla stopped him. Pla wouldn't let him get close to her son. Seeing his son call him uncle, his heart ached. He asked his assistant if he could get his son back through legal channels. But the assistant advised Feem to give up the lawsuit because it would hurt the child. Feem was sad and confused when he suddenly received a call from Pla. He immediately went to meet her, but Pla asked him not to bother her and her son anymore. It turned out that on the way to take her son to school, Pla was threatened by a mysterious man, warning her not to mess with men who already had partners. Initially, Pla didn't understand the reason until she heard her son say that a lady came to the kindergarten and gave him a lollipop. Soon after, she received a threatening call from USA, warning her not to cling to Feem, or next time, her son would receive more than just a lollipop. It was at this time that Pla understood the reason and angrily found Feem, saying that she and her son were threatened by his fiancé, warning her not to be involved with him again, or else she would harm Carter. Soon after, Feem questioned his fiancé, demanding that she not harass Pla and her son again. But USA said that she only warned Pla not to cling to her fiancé, and her father would make a real move. USA even used the lives of Pla and her son to threaten Feem, forcing him to marry her. Feem thought that he couldn't get his son back, and he couldn't go back to Pla, so to protect the Pla and her son, he had to agree to marry USA. She achieved her goal, so she smiled triumphantly, immediately going home to tell her mother the good news, and asking her mother to choose an auspicious day to hold the wedding. When USA received a complaint from Wicket, demanding that she not bother Pla and her son anymore, she said that she wouldn't do that anymore because Feem had agreed to marry her. Wicket also told Pla that they were about to get married, telling her not to worry because USA had gotten what she wanted and wouldn't come to harass them again later. Afterward, Wicket took Carter out to play ball, and Pla joined them. At this time, Feem saw the warm scene from afar, and he dejectedly left silently. At this time, Pla went out to pick up the ball, saw his departing back, and hurriedly chased after Feem, asking him if the marriage news was real, and suspected that he was getting married to protect her and her son. But Pla didn't believe Feem would be so kind. She thought this was still his trick. However, at this time Feem didn't want to explain anything anymore. He knew Pla wouldn't believe his words, so he said his blessings and goodbye. Feem also said he wouldn't come to bother the child anymore. Seeing Feem's departing back, Pla was extremely painful. At the same time, elsewhere, USA also made it clear to Pete that their relationship was over because she was about to marry his brother. Pete immediately went home and beat his brother, criticizing him for stealing the woman he loved. Feem said that he didn't love USA and that he was forced to marry her, and promised he wouldn't touch her after they got married. Before the wedding ceremony, Feem met with Wicket again, asking him to take care of Pla and his son. But Wicket angrily said that was his responsibility, no need for Feem to worry. Today was Feem and USA's wedding day. Feem saw Pla had also come to attend the wedding. Seeing Pla and her husband getting along harmoniously, he mistakenly thought Pla had a happy family. As long as the girl he loved was happy and safe, he thought his sacrifice was worthwhile. But he couldn't hide the sadness in his heart. USA, seeing she had achieved her goal of marrying Feem, wanted to insult and mock Pla. However, Pla didn't hold back and retorted. After exchanging some pleasantries, the wedding officially began. The guests came to congratulate the bride and groom, but there was no joy on Feem's face. Instead, there was helplessness, loneliness, and sadness. He even looked at Pla with affectionate eyes. Under the threat and intimidation of his wife, Feem regained his composure and continued the wedding. USA happily cut the wedding cake with Feem, completely ignoring Pete, her ex-lover, who was in extreme pain beside her. Just like that, they completed the wedding ceremony before everyone's eyes. After the ceremony ended, it was time for the wedding night that USA had been looking forward to. But what she didn't expect was that Feem didn't want to touch her at all. He said that there was no love between them, and that he wanted to sleep separately, because Feem hated her methods, hated her for using despicable means to get this marriage. So to dash her hopes, Feem picked her up and threw her into the cold swimming pool. He also warned her not to approach him again, then left her crying miserably, and resolutely left. In another development, Pete, wanting to take revenge on his brother for stealing his lover, secretly found Wicket, revealing that Feem was going to buy land in Rayong, and asked Wicket to buy it first, so his father would abolish his brother. Wicket told Pla to contact the landowner to negotiate. When Phim arrived in Rayong to find Mr. Deck to discuss buying the land, he was rejected. Phim didn't understand why, but Mr. Deck said he had already sold the land. At this time Pla arrived, saying that she had reached an agreement with Mr. Deck. Phim called Pla to talk privately, but when it was just the two of them, he didn't talk about the land, but hugged her and talked about his longing and pain. Pla scolded Phim and declared she would ruin him. Seeing Pla misunderstand, Phim helplessly watched her go to meet Mr. Deck. While he drove away, he saw a woman's car broken down on the side of the road and went down to help, surprised to recognize her as his birth mother, who had been missing for more than 10 years. He happily called out Mom. The woman was blank, but she saw that he looked familiar. Along with Phim's call, she had a headache and remembered her memories with her son. Phim said she was his mother, and he was the son she abandoned. At this time Mr. Deck and Pla arrived. Mr. Deck affirmed that she wasn't Phim's mother and chased him away, but Phim's mother remembered and hugged her son. The two talked to each other and learned that Phim's mother was being hunted down, fell into a ravine, was rescued by Mr. Deck, and lost her memory. Mr. Deck gave her a new name. Phim, knowing everything, hugged his mother and cried. He thanked Mr. Deck for helping his mother. Mr. Deck then said that he knew her identity, but he was afraid that she would be hunted down if she returned, and he didn't want to lose the person he loved. Phim then understood why Mr. Deck didn't sell the land to him. It was to prevent him from meeting his mother. Calming down, he forgave Mr. Deck. He knew Mr. Deck did that because he loved his mother. Moreover, the person who wanted to harm his mother hadn't been caught, and she would be in danger if she returned. Pla saw Phim was generous, and her heart stirred again. When they parted, Phim told Pla to keep his mother's secret, because he was afraid that the person who had harmed her 10 years ago would endanger her if they knew she was still alive. He guessed that person was his stepmother because she wanted to take his mother's place. She was the person who benefited the most when his mother disappeared. That night, Phim returned home late and saw his wife was enthusiastic, wanting to go on their honeymoon. But he didn't want to talk to USA and closed the door, locking her outside. No matter how USA called, he wouldn't open it. Pete, seeing this, mocked USA, saying that she used all means to get this marriage, but she had to endure this. USA left sadly. The next day, Phim told his father that he had met his mother in Rayong. As he was speaking, he saw his stepmother eavesdropping. So he used work as an excuse to take his father to the farm where his mother lived. Phim's father knew his wife had been living here for 10 years, and because she had lost her memory she didn't return, so he wanted to meet her. Phim said his mother had remarried, and her husband was the farm owner. At this time, he saw Pla come out. It turned out his mother trusted and liked Pla very much, and knowing her son wanted her to meet her ex-husband, she asked Pla to come along. Pla said Phim's mother was ready and invited them in. Phim's father met his wife again after 10 years and happily held her hand, saying that he had been looking for her for the past 10 years. But Phim's mother said she didn't remember him and introduced her current husband to him. Everyone knew to give them space to talk privately. It turned out Phim's mother had selective amnesia, forgetting the painful things, only remembering her son. Phim's father sincerely apologized to his ex-wife. On this side, Phim also took the opportunity to chat with Pla. He was very happy that she liked his mother. Pla didn't want to talk to him much and hurriedly left, nearly falling. Phim quickly caught her. Just as they were getting close, creating an ambiguous atmosphere, Wicket came to find Pla, saying he wanted to help her buy the land. Pla explained she was here for the farm owner's family matters today, not for work. To reassure Wicket, she affirmed she wouldn't abandon him, telling him to trust her. So Wicket left reassured. They discussed who wanted to harm Phim's mother years ago. From Phim's mother, they learned she came here with USA's mother. USA's mother misunderstood Phim's mother was having an affair with her husband. She denied it and made amends with USA's mother. But the next day she was attacked. Strangely, Phim and his father had never heard USA's mother mention this. They didn't understand why she hid the fact that she and Phim's mother had gone to the beach before she disappeared. This meant USA's mother had a secret. Everyone agreed they had to find USA's mother to ask the reason clearly. After discussing everything, everyone went home. Phim and Pla had just said goodbye when they met again. It turned out their friend had arranged for them to come here. They wanted to clarify the misunderstanding about the video from 4 years ago. Pla's best friend happened to overhear Pla's sister talking about the video with Phim's stepmother. At that time, Pla's sister was blackmailing her stepmother. Pla's best friend guessed Pla's sister recorded the video, and her stepmother uploaded it. She arranged to meet Feem's assistant to confirm, and the result was as she expected. They stopped Pla's sister, calling Feem and Pla to confront her. Faced with the evidence, Pla's sister had to confess. Pla knew the truth, disowned her sister, and ran away in pain. She couldn't believe her sister would harm her like this. It was at this time Pla knew she had misunderstood Feem. Although the misunderstanding was resolved, they now had their own families. Would they have a chance to get back together? After thinking about it, Pla made a decision. She told Feem they had gone too far. Years ago, Wicket had helped her wholeheartedly, and she didn't want to hurt her benefactor. Most importantly, she didn't want her son to be sad because her son really loved Wicket. Pla thought the best way was for the two of them not to be involved anymore. After speaking, she left and saw Wicket bring her son to pick her up. Feem saw his son and wanted to talk, but Wicket was jealous and took Carter away. Seeing his lover and son go home with another man, Feem was in pain and determined to win them back. Returning home, Feem questioned his stepmother, blaming her for uploading the video 4 years ago. His younger brother apologized for his mother, hoping he would forgive them. USA also came to advise them not to argue anymore. Feem had to let it go. Back in his room, he was sad, thinking it over and decided not to give up on Pla. He would try to bring her and her son back. At the same time, Pla was also very sad, but fortunately, her son comforted her. She thought the matter with Feem ended here, but unexpectedly saw him come to school to pick up her son, even asking him to go eat ice cream. He ignored Pla's opposition and put Carter in the car. Pla had to go with them. Seeing the two were happy, she smiled. Feem took Carter to play games. When they parted, Pla didn't allow Feem to drive them home, advising him to respect USA because she was his wife. But a person of Wicket took their picture while they were eating ice cream. Wicket's face darkened when he saw the picture. After sending Carter away, he asked Pla if she wanted to continue taking revenge on Feem, then saw she had changed her mind. Pla explained she had misunderstood Feem, and there was no need for revenge anymore. Now she felt sorry for both of them. She decided to take her son back to her grandmother's house. She didn't want to be a burden on Wicket, wanting him to have a normal life. Although Wicket tried to persuade her to stay, Pla still decided. Finally, she took her son away when Wicket went to work. Arriving at her grandmother's house, she was surprised to see Feem, and her best friend had cleaned up the house, waiting to welcome her. It turned out Pla's brother wanted his sister to reunite with her family, so he told Feem. Pla pulled Feem outside to talk, asking him to leave her and her son. But Feem said he would divorce USA and get back with her. He kissed her, ignoring Pla's opposition. Wicket came to find Pla and saw this scene, feeling heartbroken and leaving. He thought Pla had returned to Feem, but in reality, Pla still rejected Feem because she didn't want to hurt Wicket, who had helped her. Although Pla refused, Feem still didn't give up. He temporarily put this aside, because there was a more important matter, which was to help his father find the person who wanted to kill his mother years ago. The two discussed and decided to find USA's mother to ask clearly. Their conversation was overheard by his stepmother, who was horrified. The next day, his stepmother immediately went to the farm to find Feem's mother, ordering the assassin to eliminate her. It turned out years ago, the stepmother hired the assassin, wanting to get rid of Feem's mother to take her place. She took a photo of Feem's mother and USA's father in the hotel, sending it to USA's mother, falsely accusing Feem's mother of having an affair with her husband. USA's mother believed it and came to question Feem's mother. While they were talking, the stepmother and the assassin were watching from afar. After USA's mother left, the stepmother ordered the assassin to eliminate Feem's mother. The purpose was to have USA's mother be a scapegoat. The result was as she expected. Feem and his father investigated and found out the last person to see Feem's mother was USA's mother. So they misunderstood she was the murderer. They questioned USA's mother why she harmed Feem's mother. USA's mother explained that years ago she thought Feem's mother was having an affair with her husband. But after clarifying the misunderstanding, they parted. She didn't hire anyone to harm her. Just as Feem and his father were thinking about who the real murderer was, Feem received a call from his mother. Feem's mother had remembered everything. Before, she couldn't forgive Feem's father, so she lied and said she didn't remember him. Now she had calmed down, decided to let go of the past, forgive Feem's father, so they could be good friends and good parents to their children. After expressing their feelings, the three reunited. But when Feem's father left, an accident occurred. He saw a man in black about to shoot Feem's mother, and rushed to take the bullet for her. By the time Fime could react, it was too late. His father was shot, and he was dying. He died in the arms of the two people he loved most. Fime and his mother cried bitterly. The assassin reported the news to the stepmother. The stepmother was scared and trembling. Pla saw the news and hurried to comfort Fime. She gently said she would be by his side, hoping to share his pain. The police investigated the camera footage and discovered the assassin was a friend of USA's father. So they called them to the police station. USA's parents saw the camera footage, confirmed the perpetrator was their friend, but said they didn't know anything about it. Because there was no evidence, the police let them go. Fime's mother saw the video and also remembered that the person who wanted to harm her years ago was the person in this video. Now the only way was to catch the assassin. Fime handled the funeral arrangements for his father. Pla brought her son to pay his respects, to let her son greet his grandfather. Fime was pained because he hadn't had time to introduce his son to his father. Fime's mother also came to the funeral. The stepmother saw the company elders come to inquire about Fime's mother and angrily told her son not to let Fime take all the assets. Suddenly, she received a call from the assassin. He demanded she give him $5 million. The stepmother lied and said she was going to pick up a friend, then left the funeral. Arriving at the meeting point, she unexpectedly killed the assassin to silence him. When the police followed the phone signal to arrest the assassin, they only found his body. Fime was shocked in pain and again went to find Pla. Seeing Fime lose his father, Pla comforted him. The police told Fime that they had interrogated his in-laws, and they were not suspects. The lack of progress in his father's case depressed Fime. Pla advised him to calm down, thinking the perpetrator was someone else. Fime thought Pla made sense, took her hand and thanked her. Wicket saw this, then hugged Pla, claimed her, and pulled her upstairs. He was jealous, said he was Pla's husband, and lost control, wanting to force himself on her. But Fime arrived in time, stopping his violent behavior. They fought intensely. Finally, Pla stopped the two. She told Fime to leave, and that she wanted to talk to Wicket privately. She seriously told Wicket he couldn't force her to love him. If he kept insisting, she would be further away from him. Wicket understood and left. Fime was relieved after he saw Wicket leave. He secretly vowed that after his father's funeral, he would find a way to win back Pla and her son. That day, everyone went to the temple to pray for Fime's father. Fime's mother also came. The stepmother saw Fime's mother and was very angry, but she didn't expect there to be something even more angering. After the funeral, the lawyer announced the will. Fime's father divided his assets between his 2 sons and 2 wives. But the stepmother was not satisfied because Fime's mother and son received more than her and her son. She vowed to take back the assets. On this side, Wicket calmed down and apologized to Pla, saying he lost control that day. But Pla didn't accept Wicket's feelings because of this. Instead, she proposed a divorce. She hoped Wicket would find true love and have his own life. But Wicket didn't agree. He went to visit Pla and saw Fime playing intimately with her son. Seeing the happy family scene of 3, Wicket was heartbroken and went home to drink himself drunk. He was surprised to see USA come to find him. USA said she was pregnant with Fime's child, but Fime wanted to divorce her to go back to Pla. She begged Wicket to be on her side, preventing Fime and Pla from getting back together. Wicket believed it and agreed to cooperate with USA. They would try their best to separate Pla and Fime. But Wicket didn't know USA was lying. The baby she was carrying was Pete's. To avoid losing Fime, she hid her pregnancy and told the maid to buy pregnancy tests and keep it a secret. But Pete learned the truth from the maid. Pete didn't want the baby to get into trouble, so he told his brother. Fime knew and actively helped his brother find someone. He was also worried USA would find Pla and cause trouble. But when they arrived at Pla's house, USA wasn't there. Pla and everyone were preparing to go to the hospital to visit her sister. It turned out Pla's sister discovered her husband was gay, and she was so angry she had a cerebral hemorrhage. Although she was saved, she was paralyzed. Perhaps because she did so many bad things, she was now paying the price. Seeing her sister in such a tragic situation, Pla let go of the past and took care of her sister with her brother. But at this time, she didn't know her son was in danger. Because she had to go to the hospital to take care of her sister, she left her son in the care of her best friend. But Wicket and USA colluded, using work as an excuse to call Pla's best friend to the company. Pla's best friend didn't suspect anything and handed her son over to Wicket. Pla returned home, didn't see her son, and asked her best friend, learning Wicket had taken her son away. She then called Wicket. Wicket lied and said her son was sick, and he took him to the doctor. He lured Pla to the hospital. USA deliberately bumped into Pla, causing her prenatal vitamins to spill everywhere. They acted out a play for Pla to know that USA was pregnant with Feem's child. USA pretended to cry, telling Pla that Feem wanted to divorce her to get back with Pla, and she would have to abort the baby. USA used Pla's kindness, begging her to help her for the baby's sake, not to let her child lose his father. Pla said she would go home and think of a way to help. Wicket also advised Pla not to divorce him. As long as she showed Feem they couldn't get back together, Feem wouldn't divorce USA. Pla thought it over and decided to meet Feem to clarify, because she wondered why USA didn't talk about this with Feem. She asked Feem and learned he knew USA was pregnant, and Pete also explained he was the father of the child. Pla then called Wicket, arranging to meet USA, lying and saying she had thought of a way to help her. But USA didn't expect Pla to call both Feem brothers to confront her. Although Pete affirmed the baby was his, and Feem also said he had never touched USA, she still refused to admit it. At this time, Wicket knew USA had lied to him. Through this, Pla also clearly saw Wicket. She told him he didn't really love her. He just didn't want to lose to Feem, so he clung to her. She once again affirmed she would divorce him. On this side, USA didn't give up, again going to cry to her parents, lying and saying she was pregnant with Feem's child, but he wanted to divorce her. She begged her parents to help her keep Feem. At this time, Pete brought his mother to explain the baby was his, and he would take responsibility for USA, fulfilling the duty of a father. Although her mother advised USA to divorce Feem and choose Pete, who loved her, USA was still stubborn, even threatening to kill herself, begging her parents to help her save her marriage. Seeing USA injured her wrist, Pete hurriedly called for an ambulance. After USA was out of danger, he came to visit her again. His stepmother schemed with USA's father, asking him to help her deal with Feem. She explained that USA hadn't divorced yet, and if Feem died, USA and her child would inherit his assets. USA's father thought this made sense, and agreed to the assassination plan, because he saw his stepmother was very confident. It turned out his stepmother overheard that Pla's son was Feem's, so she hired assassins to follow the two, planning to kidnap them to lure Feem. But what the stepmother didn't know was that the police had a video of the assassin being silenced, proving she was the mastermind. The police had an arrest warrant, and went to Feem's house. Pete wanted to advise his mother to turn herself in, but his mother used her death to force her son to help her escape. Pete didn't want to see his mother die before his eyes, so he helped her escape. His stepmother went to USA's house, telling USA's father her plan to deal with Feem, using the excuse that they used to be lovers, asking him to help her escape. USA's mother accidentally overheard, finally learning her husband's old lover was his stepmother. After leaving, the stepmother immediately called the assassins, ordering them to kidnap Pla and her son. Pla's brother and her best friend saw this and told Feem. He was wondering who had kidnapped Pla and her son when his stepmother called, demanding 100 million in ransom, telling him to come alone to deliver the money. Knowing his stepmother wanted to take his life through USA's mother's words, Feem decided to gather the ransom to save Pla and his son. Wicket knew the news and came to help Feem gather 100 million in one day. The next day, Feem brought the money to the meeting point. Two thugs took his phone and led him to a remote suburb. The police also followed Feem, arriving at the abandoned warehouse where the kidnappers were holding the hostages. Feem saw his stepmother and USA's father, and he realized this was their plan. It turned out USA's father was angry because Feem had hurt his daughter, so he wanted revenge. Feem asked where Pla and his son were. His stepmother ordered her subordinates to bring Pla and her son out. Seeing she had the ransom money, she planned to shoot Feem, but Pete advised his mother against it. Seeing the police surrounding them, they panicked, grabbing Pla and her son as hostages to escape. But Feem and everyone blocked their path. When his stepmother was about to shoot Feem, Pete rushed to take the bullet for his brother. Seeing Pla in danger, Feem also rushed to take the bullet for her. Finally, the police arrived and arrested all the criminals. Fortunately, Feem and his brother only suffered minor injuries. Pla was extremely worried about Feem's injuries. Through Feem taking a bullet for Pla, Wicket understood Feem loved Pla more than he did. Believing Feem would take care of her and her son better, he decided to withdraw and blessed them. He and Pla quickly completed the divorce procedures. USA finally accepted Pete. Although Carter hadn't recognized Feem as his father yet, Feem still introduced Carter to his mother. Pla was a little sad and confused, not knowing how to tell her son the truth. so he would understand Uncle Feem was his biological father. At this time Wicket came, saying he would help them. He told Carter a fairy tale, helping him understand Feem was his father. Thanks to Wicket, Carter happily recognized Feem as his father. To express their gratitude, Plaw and Feem invited Wicket to continue being Carter's adoptive father. Carter was happy to have two fathers who loved him. Feem and Plaw took their son to the beach. They saw Carter really liked the beach. Feem said there was a reason for this, because their son was the result of their love on the beach. The whole family was happy together. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to see more good movies. Goodbye and see you again.